Hey, welcome back. We're now on lesson 4.6, and here are your learning targets as we continue to learn about triangles. Apply properties of right isosceles and equilateral triangles. Also, you will be able to solve for missing measures of triangles. How many congruent sides does an isosceles triangle have? Hopefully you said two congruent sides from the past lessons that we had, especially 4.1. If we look at this, here are our two sides that are congruent. If we go across from those sides, we get to an angle. Those two angles that are across from those sides are called base angles, and those base angles are congruent. Something that we haven't talked about yet is this angle right up here. We know we have the base angles down here, but this angle has a name too. This angle is called the vertex angle. Now your job is to go in the notes and label the diagram at the right. So what I've helped you with is I've given you two measures. This side measures 12 and this side measures 12. From there, you guys should be able to label the legs, base angles, and vertex angles. Also, don't forget to tick mark any congruent angles or sides in your diagram. Go ahead and do that now. Pause this tape, and when you're done, go ahead and begin again. This is what it should look like. We have our two congruent sides here, which were both 12. They're called legs. We go across from this leg to this base angle, across from this leg to this base angle. Since these two legs are congruent, our two base angles are going to be congruent. The segment in between our base angles is called our base, and the other angle here is our vertex angle. Now, be careful. The base angles are not always going to be at the bottom. The base angles depend on where the two congruent sides are, and vice versa. The base angles may not always be at the bottom, which means if you need to find the legs, okay, you still have to use the same process of going straight across from the base angles to the opposite side, and that will be the congruent angle or congruent sides that are your legs. So let's take a look at this, a little math talk here. Here's our base angles theorem. Some if and then statements are coming up, so you may have to use these in proofs in future lessons. So if two legs of a triangle are congruent, then two angles, then the angles opposite them are also congruent. So we had our legs here. Here's our legs once again. Here's our angles across from that side. Here's our angle across from that side. Those are our base angles, and those are congruent. This time I've changed it up on you. I've rotated one of the triangles around a little bit. Notice the base angles are now on the side. So that's also going to change where your congruent sides are. Since the base angles are here and here, if I start with this base angle and go across to this side, this is one of my legs. Start with this base angle and go across. Here's my second leg. These two legs are congruent. All right. See if you can solve example 1. Hint, fill in the diagram as much as you can. Find the linear pair. Remember, a triangle's interior angles equal 180 degrees. When you're done with that, go ahead and try example 2. Now you can solve, or what can you solve for first? Can you solve for x or for y? When you finish the problem, go ahead and continue on to this lesson. Equilateral triangles. Well, we already talked about equilateral triangles. We know that all sides are congruent. And now we're going to learn a little bit of math talk here. The corollaries to the base angles theorem. If a triangle is equilateral, meaning three sides are congruent, then it's also equiangular, meaning three angles are congruent. Once again, we see an if and then statement. We may be using this in a proof later on. So here we go down, now we just flipped it around. If a triangle is equiangular, then it is also equilateral. Take a minute and try to solve example number 3. go ahead and skip over number 4 because we'll do that as a class. Once you're done with these, hit play and continue with this screencast. Right angles. When a triangle has one right angle, the other two angles sum up to 90 degrees. See if you can label the following in your notes: legs, hypotenuse, and right angle. Stop here until you fill out your diagram. Okay, here we have a right angle. So I went ahead and labeled it. This was a leg and this was a leg. Here was my right angle mark, so I know this is my right angle at 90 degrees. And if I look here, the right angle box sort of looks like an arrow pointing over to the hypotenuse. Notice in this problem, I did not mark my two legs congruent because I do not have enough information to go ahead and conclude that at this point. Now you have a little space left over at the bottom of your notes. Here, you're going to go ahead and draw this diagram in, making sure you leave a little space to the right-hand side to do a little work and draw one more diagram in a couple minutes. So, let's get some math talk out of the way. The measure of the exterior angle, which in this case is 4, is equal to the sum of the remote interior angles. The remote interior angles are two non-adjacent angles to the exterior angle. So here's our exterior angle. 3 would be adjacent to it, so we're not going to use 3. So 1 and 2 are our remote interior angles. Think of this. You're sitting on a couch with your buddy. Your buddy's number 3, you're at angle 4. You're lucky enough to have 2 TVs. Do you want to get up and walk all the way across the room to go ahead and turn the TVs? No, what are you going to use? You're going to use your remote. So from the exterior angle here, right here, you're going to use your remote to change the channel on TV 1 and TV 2. So think about that when you're trying to set up this problem to go ahead and solve. That angle 1 plus angle 2 is going to equal angle 4. Here I've gone ahead and put in some angle measures for you. So if the two remote interior angles are 40 and 45, they should equal my exterior angle, 85. So all I do is go plug them in down here. 40 plus 45, does it equal 85? Yes, we're good to go. Now your turn to go ahead and practice. I want you guys to go ahead and solve for x. So go ahead and stop this now. And when you're done, resume watching the show. All right, so here's what we had down here. We had our two remote interior angles, 2x and 3x, and we had our exterior angle, which was 125. So 2x plus 3x equals 125. We combine like terms over here. We get 5x equals 125. So we divide by 5 to isolate the variable, which is x, and x equals 25. Now I go back to check my work. 2x is 2 times 25, that equals 50. 3x is 3 times 25, which equals 75. I add those two together, 50 and 75, and I get 125. So I know my answer is correct. All right, your turn. Go ahead and complete worksheet 4.2. Hints: if there are more than one triangle in the diagram, use the previous information. Vertical angles and linear pair may also help you. Follow what Yoda says, and you'll do just fine.